Welcome back in. The 9 o'clock hour is underway right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. David James Nickeldorf III is off today. He'll be back tomorrow. DJ and PK will be back in all of its glory as we roll on in the sports world. The Olympics taking center stage starting today and tomorrow. As I've been saying, you can catch all the action on Channel 5, KSL TV. And hockey is going to be obviously a marquee sport at the Olympics over there in Italy. Sam Farnsworth and others are there covering it for us. Excited to see what Clayton Keller can do playing on an international stage of the highest level, doing well. The captain, as they call him, for the Utah Mammoth. They roll into the break. As far as that goes, what they've been able to do has been pretty good here of late, so we're excited for them to see what they can do. And Cole Bagley is there. You went on, Cole is our KSL Sports Insider. You were on the last road trip, right, Cole?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was pretty good until that one game when they scored like 15 goals in 14 seconds. That was pretty wild, but that had been entertaining, though.
Yeah, it was a great road trip. That was one of their kind of short gauntlet Eastern road trips where, kind of the saying is in the NHL, if you can go on the road and win 50% of those games, that's a success. Obviously, you're going to aim to win as many as possible, but, to go on the road against four really good teams, to pick up a division 4-point swing game against Nashville, to push Tampa to their limits, to steal 2 points from Florida, and then of course, it would have been nice to pick up an additional 2 against Carolina, and they were certainly on track for that as they led by 2 goals with, 2 minutes left. But, just kind of a fluke ending, but it was still great. And, those are some fun hockey towns that I would highly recommend any fans try to make their way out to if they ever have a chance.
Cole Bagley is our KSL Sports Insider. You can read all of his stuff at kslsports.com and everything that they post there. And all Utah Mammoth interviews are brought to you by Hercules First Federal Credit Union, growing stronger together. And, we just played updates that we do. Growing stronger together is the tagline for Hercules First Federal Credit Union. And Coach Bear, Andre Tournier, was talking about the versatility of the team. Now that they've had some youngsters begin to come of age and they've added some veterans, speak to the versatility that this team has and Tourney has at his disposal.
Yeah, I think that's one of the number one reasons to their success this year. They're currently sitting at the top wild card spot going into the break, which I think was more or less the goal when the season started, and certainly as they came back from the short holiday break into this about 15-game stretch before the Olympics, was not just to compete for a wild card spot, but to be in one as the break, and they're able to do that. And they picked up a lot of wins. I think they won in their last 10. They were 7-3, and I think of the 15 games that they played over the last about 5 weeks, they won 11 or 12 of those. So. There's a ton of versatility on this team. I think that's kind of how they looked to improve this roster, over the last 2 off seasons, was to be able to add, guys like Kevin Stenlund and, Brandon Tanev and Nate Schmidt, guys that really, just round out the bottom of that roster that, they can be relied on when guys like Logan Cooley and Alexander Kerfoot go down. That to me is one of the most impressive things about this team is since Logan Cooley went down, they won about 70% of their games. I think a lot of people kind of started to write off the season when they saw Cooley go down, and it's understandable, right? He's arguably their best overall player. He's one of the brightest young players in the National Hockey League, and so he's missed almost the last, I think, 28 games. For them to continue to win and honestly to play some of their best hockey of the entire season after he went down, and then obviously they've been without Alexander Kerfoot, it speaks volumes. Bear talked about certain guys like Brandon Tanev and Jack McBain, and they're in hockey. There's going to be players that their impact does not necessarily show up on the score sheet, and Brandon Tanev I think is a perfect example of that. They call him Turbo because he is he's like the Energizer Bunny. He's always skating out there going 100 miles an hour. He's delivering hits. He's harsh on the forecheck. That plays an impact, on their ability to win pucks back in the offensive zone, to control the neutral zone, and and when he spoke about Jack McBain, Jack signed a fairly significant extension, and in terms of points, he's got 19. I don't know that he's necessarily played into that extension in terms of point production, but what he's done is he's impacted the game in other ways. He has been a huge part of the success of that third line. He's able to play really physical. He's answered the bell on some fights, and he crowds the net front really well, which opens up space for his line mates. So, yeah, I mean, any way you look at it, this team, it's been the entire roster has really helped them find success this year. It's not just one or two players, but it's everybody on this team.
Cole Bagley, our KSL Sports insider for the Utah Mammoth, joining us. You spoke of Cooley. Can I assume after the break he's back, which is 3 more weeks?
Yeah, it's certainly turning in that direction. Over the last 2 weeks, he's made a ton of progress every single day. It was like every single day you'd show up to practice and he's doing something that's a step ahead of where he was the day before. Whether that was joining the guys towards the end of morning skate, to elevating towards spending the entire morning skate with the guys, to participating in drills, and then eventually yesterday he skated some lines. He's still wearing a non-contact sweater, but I had an opportunity to watch him after practice for about 15-20 minutes, and just based on the eye test, he looks like he's very, very close. And Coach Tornell was able to ask him yesterday during practice, said, hey, where are Logan Cooley and Alexander Kerfoot at? He said, look, they're not day-to-day yet, but it's coming. It's very close. So I would anticipate that, these guys are going to get about 3 weeks off. They don't play for another 20 days. So by that point, Cooley should be in a position where, he can rejoin the lineup.
Last year at this time when they had the break, the Four Nations deal, I saw where the 16 teams, if the season had ended right then, obviously it doesn't, but 14 of the 16 stayed on and got into the postseason. Now, nothing is assured until it literally is for this team. But I'm thinking they're obviously in a good spot, a much better spot than last year. What do you think? And obviously win the games is the number one thing. But what do you think beyond that in terms of what they need to do to win the games that they need to do as they close out the stretch run to secure that playoff bid?
Yeah, it's to keep the same mentality. And that's what, the guys that we talked to last night, Dylan Gunther and Karel Vejmelka, that was the message, Gunther even reflected on last year. He said, look, we can have a good break. We can enjoy it, but we need to stay in shape and we need to take advantage of this time and maintain that same mindset. He said, we played well last year, but not good enough. And and then he talked about how hot St. Louis got, and a lot of teams came off flying, and that they just they played well, but it was, just too far out of reach for them to ever catch St. Louis. Utah needs to be that team this year. They need to do what St. Louis did last year, where they come back, they have the same mindset that they have right now because they're playing their best hockey. They're starting to peak, and they're peaking at the right time. This is when you want to be playing your best hockey. It's coming down the final stretch. There's with about 20, 25 games left, where you're clicking on all cylinders. Everybody's on the same page. You're playing with confidence, and that when you go into a hockey game that you have a really good chance to win it. That's what I was part of a conversation last week where that's exactly what Sean Dursey was explaining is, look, we know who we are now. We know what our identity is. And if we can play that way, we have full confidence that we can beat anybody. And that's what they need to do. And that's what we saw last night against Detroit. They were confident, and everybody was contributing. Karel Vejmelka was outstanding between the pipes. All four forward lines, were living up to their expectations. The PK was really good. The power play scored again. The defense was really stingy. So I don't think they really need to change much. But another positive, right, what we're talking about is they're going to get Cooley back. They're going to get Kerfoot back. And they're going to have an opportunity if they choose to take advantage of the trade deadline. They've got some assets. They've got the ability to go and get somebody if they feel that they can get a good deal and that player will raise their level of play. So, Utah is in as good of a position as I think they could be, given the fact that they're in the toughest division in the National Hockey League that has arguably the 3 best teams. So to be in the top wild card spot, to have a favorable schedule, to be getting guys back and be playing the hockey that they are. There is no reason that this team should not make the playoffs.
Relative to expectations, maybe a breakout season for Schmaltz. Can you say that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would say that this is his best season in the NHL, and I had an opportunity to ask him about that the other night. He's a pretty humble guy, like most hockey players are. And I straight up asked him, I said, "Is this the best season of your career?" And he said, "It's up there." He's like, "I've had some good ones previously, but he said he's really enjoying this season. He's playing with some really good teammates, some good line mates. Obviously, him and Keller have just been clicking. So yeah, I think the difference for this year for Schmaltz is he just looks completely bought in. To be honest, I was not crazy about Schmaltz last season. He was a guy that, in my mind, could be a trade asset for them. But, now based on the way that he's played this year, he's been impactful in all three zones. He's one of the best forwards in terms of separating opponents from the puck. He's got a really active stick. He contributes on, special teams, and, he's a guy, that they want on the ice, when they need a goal or when, they're coming down the stretch to try to close out a win. So, yeah, I think this is his best season in the NHL, and I think he's a guy that Utah needs to make sure that they bring back.
Cole Bagley, our Utah Mammoth insider for KSL Sports. We turn our attention to the Olympics now going forward over the next couple of weeks. What do you expect out of Clayton Keller for the United States, our U.S. representative for the Mammoth?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's really tough to say because that roster is so deep, is so talented, especially amongst their forwards. I mean, this is arguably, it may not even be much of an argument, this is probably the best team the United States has ever sent to the Olympics. Just top to bottom, forwards, defensemen, goaltenders. This is a team that a lot of people are favoring to win gold, and Canada's right there. I mean, it's neck and neck. It could go either way. I do think one of those teams will win gold. As for Keller, I could see it where he's probably one of the last guys that made the roster. And that's kind of where I'm leaning towards is I don't know where he fits in, not because he's not a good player, but because, like I said, they're so deep. And Keller's not a third or a fourth line guy. He's a guy that should be playing in the top six, just given his frame, given his size, given his skill set. But the top six is really, really good. And so I don't know where he necessarily fits in. I could see him playing maybe a game or two during the preliminary rounds. Certainly if there's any injuries, he's probably a guy that would be called upon to step up. But at the same time, he's a player that you probably would want running your second power play unit. He has the ability to do that. He's one of the best facilitators in the NHL, the way that he can, kind of break things down, the way that he sees the ice. So, my expectation is that he's not going to play a ton, just given how talented they are. But you never know. He's playing really good hockey right now. He's played his best hockey of the season ever since he was named to Team USA. So, general manager for the United States, Bill Guerin, he's going to have some tough decisions to make. I mean, it was already tough decisions to decide who was going to be on the roster, but over the next about 10 days, as they start, as those guys get over there and they start practicing, he's going to have some tough decisions to make in terms of, who's playing for the United States on a nightly basis.
That's Cole Bagley, our KSL Sports Insider for the Utah Mammoth. Thanks for your time, Cole, and enjoy the break. How about that?
Yeah, thanks, PK.
Okay. Cole Bagley joining us. You can hear him weekly as we get into the stretch run for the Mammoth. That would be cool if they make the postseason for the first time in Utah, only the second season, obviously. And what also would be cool, I talked about this yesterday, is having in the spring the Jazz and the Mammoth in the playoffs at the same time. That would be a lot of fun, wouldn't it? And I think the community would enjoy that. I don't think there's any question about that. And with that in mind, the Jazz with their trade, yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens today, too, as the trade deadline is upon us. And we'll get to that, get you caught up on what we've been talking about, what you may have missed. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Love is in the air, and the Zone is ready to help you become a Valentine's Day MVP. Listen to 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and online at KSLSports.com for your chance to win 2 Grande Minky Couture blankets. Keep it locked on the KSL Sports Zone and be Valentine's MVP. Presented by Minky Couture on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today. They are your local trusted financial fiduciary. You can call them at 801-210-6800, 210-6800. You can visit their website at TrajanWealth.com, TrajanWealth.com. Okay, the trade deadline is today. There has been a bunch of moves. I ask you, what is your favorite move? Well, my favorite move is Jaren Jackson to the Utah Jazz. That would be Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, I noticed he tweeted out a take note. Was it a hashtag take note? Is that what it was?
Yes, it was. Yep.
I don't know if we still say, is tweet old school or we just say posted?
I say tweets, but yeah, that's technically a post.
I just can't shake it. I mean, it's just hard for me to go with the old times. I mean, and to let go of the old times. Tweet, these bowl games that used to be called all these different names, and now they're the Pop-Tarts Bowl. What was the Pop-Tarts Bowl before? It had to have been something, wasn't it? Was it the Citrus Bowl? Was that it?
It was it's Camping World Stadium, and before that, I think it was the Citrus Bowl. I think you're right.
Yeah. As we whatever they want to call the Fiesta Bowl, to my dying day, and even in the great beyond, I will call it the Fiesta Bowl. And I didn't even mind the Tostitos Festival, but I understand things change and all that stuff, so you got to get with it. So for me, it's tweet. And that was good to see Jaren Jackson take note, because that's been one of their slogans that they've been using for a bit of several years now. And obviously it's a play on the music with the jazz notes and all that stuff. Yeah. And so that would indicate to me that he is excited about coming to the Jazz. He's intrigued, all those things. Obviously, they have been in communication with him. Probably Ryan Smith, one or both of the Ainges, Jay-Z, Will Hardy, certainly. Maybe they have basically what they call now, what we would refer to it in football as position coaches, and they have them for basketball now with the Jazz. They got a number of people, and maybe that's what they got there too, and the training staff, and then where he's going to get set up to live. I know that they give them areas and what are they looking for, and they help them out as far as that goes. So all that stuff has been taken care of, or is ongoing anyway, and Jaren Jackson going to be here now. I don't want to see Jaren Jackson out on the floor that much. Obviously, he's not going to play tonight. We understand that. But as far as that goes, the Jazz need to lose. I wouldn't say now more than ever, but it takes on a little level of more importance in my mind, because you've got your starting group set up. If they re-sign Kessler, you certainly think it would be an extremely tall lineup of Jackson Jr. and Marketing Sr. and Alec Kessler. And the backcourt, I assume they will stay with George and Bagley and Yak. If you have a backcourt of George Bagley, what does that lead to?
Oh, I don't know. It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, yeah. Well said. I'm glad you thought of that.
Yeah, I thought of it. No, that's all credit to you.
George Bagley. Jazz, use that. George Bagley backcourt. It's a Wonderful Life. I'm giving you that. I'm gifting you that phrase to use. I probably should trademark it, but I've never been a money guy. I got what I got, and I roll with what I have. How about that one, too? That's a good one. I got what I got, and I roll with what I have. A George Bagley backcourt. It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, and add a top rookie to the mix, and then you could bring him along at his own pace. DeBonsa looked awesome last night individually. We'll get to that. So we'll see what the Jazz can do. Lose some more, and now, and we should probably, and when we get DJ back, we'll ask him and we'll develop that topic. Is it more palatable for Jazz fans to lose the rest of the way? I'd have to think that the answer would be overwhelmingly yes, because we know it's just 30 games or so, right? And it'll go by fast, that's for sure. And then when you get into March Madness, who really pays attention to NBA basketball to the level that you do normally? Probably not. You're focused on the March Madness because it's a fun tournament, right? And that usually takes center attention for those 3 weeks. And so at that point, when that's over, well, then you got about 10 days of the regular season to go. And you literally know this time, we've been saying it, that the end is near. The tank is over once this season ends. So let's get to that point and get that pick and see what happens in May with the lottery, and maybe it breaks your way. Maybe everything is finally going to come together and the basketball gods shine upon BYU, shine upon the Utah Jazz. That would be cool. And even if it doesn't, you know that the tank is over. Austin Haynes spoke that. And he sort of put it into effect in a way. It's delayed his season, but that's okay. He didn't inherit that trade in which he had to keep the top 5 or top 8 protected. He inherited it. And so he didn't cause it anyway. And so let's go and get to that point. I'm excited to see a bunch of trades in the NBA. The Mavs, Anthony Davis, boy, that's got to rank down as one of the worst trades in NBA history, you would think. They keep him for just about 53 weeks, because I think it was the last week in January that he was traded for Luka Doncic. And now the Mavs, they're in their rebuild 8-player trade with Dallas, or not with Dallas, with Washington. Dallas is where he went. And so we'll see as far as that goes, where they stand in the lottery. I would think they would be wanting to lose and all that stuff themselves too, and see if they can strike gold 2 years in a row. That would be unfair. That's what I think the NBA needs to do, is to make sure that does not happen. Put up some kind of guardrails that you cannot receive the top pick, certainly consecutive years. That seems wrong. Jazz are in Atlanta tonight. The Atlanta Hawks created a trade with two trades. One, they sent Kennard over to the Lakers, and they're getting back Gabe Vincent tonight. So Kennard will be gone tonight. Porzingis be gone. He's on a $30.7 million expiring deal, and he's going to go to the Warriors. Man, that's what just drives me crazy, man. You look at some of these stars, and they get enormous amounts of money. I mean, you can argue that Steph Curry, for all the money that he makes, is probably underpaid for all the attention and acclaim he's brought the Warriors.
He has been,
but
underpaid.
He's a superstar at the highest level. Obviously, you can argue that with Jordan, whatever he made wasn't enough. I mean, he held the NBA in his hands, metaphorically speaking, basically, for a good long while. He carried the league post Magic and Bird, right? And all right, we get that. But a guy like Porzingis making $30 million a year? Really? My goodness, that seems outrageous for someone who I think of as perpetually injured. And anyway, he's going to go to the Warriors for Buddy Hield and Jonathan Kuminga, who never seemed to work out there for the Warriors. So both teams will be shorthanded because the players that the Jazz have acquired won't be playing. Now, they did send our guy, Jock Londale of the St. Mary's Gales, sent him on his way. And he's going to Atlanta too, isn't he?
Yeah, he was rerouted to Atlanta as part of the 3-team deal here.
Right.
And we'll always have the Lonzo Ball era, PK.
The Lonzo Ball era, man. I would have loved, because I would have loved, we haven't heard much in many years now from the dad. What was his name?
LeVar. And he's not been as out in front as he used to be, no doubt.
Yeah, man. He used to be, it seemed like a daily controversy on something. Stay in your lane, he said to somebody. I know his wife has had significant health problems, and I think he has maybe had some health issues too. But that Lonzo Ball, man, he was like the second pick, and Magic Johnson was talking about him being the future of the Lakers. That never even came close to panning out. I'd have to double check. A second, at worst, third. That never worked. And if he had stayed, he would have given Jordan Clarkson a run for his money as most tatted up Jazz player. But he's going to be a free agent there, and we'll see what happens coming off of Cleveland. Cleveland making the big trade yesterday, sending Harden over there. We'll see if that matters. And Garland going to the Clippers. See what the Cavs can do. Are they stuck at being a good team as Donovan Mitchell was with the Jazz and not really going anywhere in the postseason and having disappointment after disappointment? We shall see about that. Trade deadline, 1 o'clock today. We'll see if the Jazz make some more moves. I would not put it past them. I do not know what they're going to make, but having conversations with the folks over there that they have been very busy scurrying about. And the word that was given to me was swamped, which makes sense because this is a busy, busy time. And so their executives they're swamped with all sorts of work that they got going on, trying to make this team better. All right, Kevin Young, man, he's got to make the Cougars better. Another disappointing loss. Now, we are into Groundhog Day. Wasn't Groundhog Day? Was it the other day? Was it Monday?
It was Monday, February 2nd.
Yeah, it seems like with the Cougars, we are in Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And we're all getting sick of it, unless you're a Ute or an Aggie fan, I guess, or a BYU hater, which is probably one and the same. And they fall behind. Now they fell behind, I think, about 15, but they did rally. I think it was tied 41-41, something like that at halftime. Took a lead of about 5 points or so in the second half and then just folded, man. Majerus used to say, you can never score enough points to offset defensive deficiencies. And, boy, that is just ringing true for the Cougars. Scoring 92 points, was it? And they still giving up 99. Correct. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Houston will go a week without giving up 99 points.
Well,
the Houston Cougars.
The day that the Houston Cougars go up 99 points, Kelvin Sampson will keel over dead.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen. And Houston coming into Marriott Center Saturday night, they're ranked in the top 10. BYU's ranked 16th, but probably going to fall. I wouldn't be surprised if they fell out of the ranking. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a talking point. But for a team with high expectations, nope, they're not meeting them right now. Wish they were. I'd much rather them be in first place, them be in the top 5, but they're not. DeBonce can go number 1 and 2, and he sure looked electrifying offensively. He's got long strides. It looks like he's got a great game. There's no doubt about it. But they need to dig in, and they need to show some heart. They need to show some intensity, and so freaking soft with the turnovers, just brutal in the early parts of the game. They were having more turnovers than shot attempts. If you're going to have these turnovers, throw the ball out of bounds then, or commit an offensive foul. So the other team has to begin the offense with taking the ball out of bounds. Get your defense set up. That's the point. And they're just not doing that whatsoever, man. Kevin Young, whatever you got to do it. Turn over chairs and tables in the annex. And, I mean, a BYU coach, I don't think he can get ejected. But, I mean, they got to do something, Yak.
Well, and it kind of goes back to what Steve Cleveland told us on Monday. Remember, he was saying he wanted to see a players-only meeting being led by maybe AJ or Richie Saunders. And I would hope that if that hasn't happened already, that's going to happen. Because, let's be honest, PK, I like to use the phrase all the time, coaches coach, players play. And Kevin Young, his staff, they can say all they want to these players, but ultimately – the guys on the court who determine what's actually going to happen. So they've got to, speaking of the players themselves, pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, DeBonce talked about going to the Final Four over the summer.
Yeah, he said the floor was a Sweet 16.
Yeah, this is going to be your only season in college. We get that. We understand how the system works. I don't begrudge him of that. Of course he has to go. There's no question he has to go. There's too much at stake for him to stay in college. That's just the reality of the world. Richie Saunders, this is it, man. You came back. You could have gone probably to many different places, but you came back. You don't want to go out like this, man. You don't want to go out being at 7th, 8th place in the Big 12. That's not acceptable. Losses happen, but the way they're losing is unacceptable. Allowing 90 points in back-to-back weeks or games, I should say.
Yep.
Come on, man. Shouldn't happen. Should not happen. And now you got Houston. Well, you're going to have to dig in, or they're going to run you off the floor.
Well, and
that's just a fact.
Let's be very blunt, PK. Ever since BYU and Houston joined the league, there's been one program who's routinely run BYU off the floor, and it's the Houston Cougars. BYU's had zero success against Kelvin Sampson's squad, and it does not look like it's going to change Saturday night.
That's why I'm intrigued. That's what sports is about. Jerry Sloan always used to talk about we talked about influencers here in the state, and when it comes to basketball, Jerry Sloan certainly had a major influence in the stuff that he would preach. See what you're about, point to his chest and his heart, what's inside, because you got to get it up, man. You just have to. Now is the time. This game could determine which way the season goes. You don't want to be too dramatic. I understand that, but I think it's a legitimate claim as far as that goes, man. You start losing like this, and at least last year when they sucked, it was early in the conference season. Now we are past the midway point. They've got fewer games left than they've played in conference, right? And for most teams, for BYU, it's right at the middle. And so with that in mind, I don't think that beating Houston washes away everything, but it goes about 90% toward it because you need some marquee wins. And now it's not like you had bad losses before, but I think losing to Oklahoma State, that's on the way to a bad loss. And maybe Oklahoma State will turn out to be better than we thought. And I think winning conference road games are really hard, which means because they're really hard, that's why you have to defend with everything you have, because they are harder than winning at home. And you didn't do that, and you allowed that team to just basically laugh at you from the offensive perspective, and you put up very little resistance. So see what you got, Cougars. We saw what the Aggies got, man, and it was sweet. Beating New Mexico by 20 in the pit. That'll open some eyes to the selection committee. If not, it should, right? 88-68. False left with 19 points. Stuff in the box score. A fun player to watch. That is for sure. And we'll see. They got Wyoming. I assume they'll go to Laramie Saturday and win that ball game. They got 9 games left themselves. And they're looking like, hey, maybe they are to the point where their season will be judged by what you did in the NCAA tournament. That's when you know you got a good program and high expectations, not just getting there. They've been there. Now, do they have this opportunity to win? That remains to be seen. I talked about this, and I want to explore it with DJ when he gets back tomorrow, that they've had a number of coaches that have run through town and had success and had NCAA tournament teams, but is Jared Calhoun the best of the bunch? It looks like he might be, because his teams play with heart. They're disciplined. They know what they're about. They know what they're trying to do. And more often than not, they are doing it, obviously. The Utes aren't doing it. Alex Jensen having a struggle in his first year, not to be unexpected by any stretch, to go with the double negative. ASU comes in and beats them by 8 points. They got down big. Their times, better times are coming. They're not right now. And we spoke to the Mammoth. Hey, they won, man. Good for them. They're in the playoffs right now. Season doesn't end right now, but they got a 3-week break. Get Cooley back when they come out of the break here. In 20 days is their next game, 3 weeks from yesterday. And then away they go in the stretch run. We'll see if they can get to the postseason. Jaren Jackson, we'll see about him and what he does for the Jazz. Still the dominant story. And we'll see if the Jazz make any moves. Stay with us. We'll wrap up the show, get you ready for Jake and Ben right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Great time to be a sports fan. We got a little bit of everything going on. We even got golf. Tony Finau will be participating in the Waste Management Open. That begins today. We'll be following that. And then we know what is this weekend. This week, the world is watching, and you could be watching on your brand new 75-inch smart television. Yeah, 75-inch smart TV. The KSL Sports Zone wants you front and center for every unforgettable moment. Enter to win a 75-inch TV at kslsports.com/contest. And for additional entries, listen this week for keywords to be announced on each show. The more entries you have, the better your chance to win. Our keyword today, get a load of this. The keyword today is pigskin. You got that? Pigskin. Listen all day for more keywords and enter to win at kslsports.com/contest. The countdown is on. The opening ceremony to the Olympics is Friday, and the big game is Sunday with pregame coverage starting at 11 a.m. Watch it all, everything that you want to watch on KSL 5 TV. How about that? Yeah, there you go, right? Go ahead and win a big TV. Join David James Sniggledorf III, and both of you can have what? Big,
I got a big
TVs.
TV.
What does he have, Yak?
I got a big TV.
Yeah, look at him. The Flaunter. That's his new nickname. Shaq used to come up with a bunch of nicknames. How about the Flaunter when it comes to DJ? You like that one, Yak?
The Flaunter. Throwing a by him tomorrow.
Flaunting the size of his television. How dare he do that? I put on Facebook, what is wrong with BYU basketball? Oh, my goodness. There is certainly a lot that people want to participate. Russell Tialavea. They don't pass, open up the court, defense, still good. They'll get it. Okay. Nothing there as it is normal, says John. I don't know. Gwen, the coach, no excitement. The coach needs to ramp it up. All the other coaches I see are great examples. Don't know why he doesn't get it. Gwen coming down hard on KY, who was thought to be the wonder boy when he came into town. Got him to the Sweet 16, got Jaeger Dealman, a first-round draft choice, and certainly A.J. Devonsa will be a high first-round draft choice, but it's sort of shallow. It doesn't come with winning. Brady, this whole mess is fixed by not letting the person you guard drive by you. AJ, Rob, Richie Davis can't stay in front of a player they're guarding. Maybe they aren't athletic enough. Maybe they aren't trying enough. Either way, it's the biggest problem they have. Don't even get me started on Boscovich's defense. Oh, my. Interesting, he spells O-O-W-E. A little play on words there. They owe these guys a lot of money, huh? How about the Aggies going to the pit and win by 20? Come on, talk about them already. I have talked about them extensively, Alex. I think that Calhoun is possibly the best coach they've had of the recent guys who've come through town. KC saying coaching, no bench, no point guard. Well, they don't really have a pass first point guard. That guy's Dallin Hall. And you have to wonder, did they do enough? Did they show him the love to keep him? They brought in Rob Wright, and that was understood. Rob, you're going to get the bulk of the minutes, and Dallin's a senior. BYU guy through and through. Maybe you ought to rethink some of that stuff there. If you win, great. But if you don't, you open yourself up to all sorts of questions. And that's a legitimate question. Are they letting these BYU squad guys go? And could they add some depth? And if you're playing, some of these guys, if they're not going to play, there's no way they're going to stay at BYU if they're not receiving big minutes. But a kid like Trey Stewart, did he receive big minutes? At times he hardly played, but he was a BYU guy and he stayed. And when he got his chance, he helped the team. They could use somebody like a Trey Stewart this year, who's not a star by any stretch, but he's a BYU guy. Something to think about and ponder. We'll see what happens going forward to BYU basketball as their season rolls on. Coming up next, we got Jake and Ben. They'll tell you all about the Jazz. Trade deadline is fast approaching, just 3 hours away. See what's up. If there are any moves to be made in the NBA, will Giannis go somewhere? They got you covered. Stay with us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.